Here in a second. We are live on Instagram and YouTube. I'm Dr. Malia Jensen. This is my co-host from heaven. This is Tucker. This is Tucker. And I just want to welcome you guys all here. Um, Welcome to Dr. J's Prescription for Health. This is where you have the opportunity to ask questions about your health concerns. And we're going to just bring up a short topic today, talk about that. Good morning, Lucy. Good morning, Diane. We're going to just go through, wait for everybody to jump on here, and then we're going to talk about something that has been coming up a lot in my consultations just recently. Good morning, Lucy. Thank you for being here. Lucy is my blue shield, my blue wrencher over on YouTube. She's my moderator. Fortunately, we do not need a moderator on Instagram. You guys are so nice over there. Anyway, we're going to wait for everybody to jump on here. Today's topic is in regards to um, some of the consultations that I'm coming up or finding that is a common theme. How about that? It's a common theme. By the way, this is Buddy Blue. He looks good in blue, I think. So his little name is BB. Buddy Boy, Buddy Blue. See, he knows. Anyway, yes, I agree. I agree. Yep, you're live right now, buddy. You are live. You're live. Okay, so looks like YouTube is a little slow on the draw, but we'll just get started here. And I want to talk about something. Thank you, Lucy. I want to talk about something that is very, very prevalent. Let's say, case study. Let's say you're eating a standard American diet and you're thinking to yourself, you need to make some changes. You're eating donuts, you're eating pizza, you're getting pasta and cereal, and you're just eating just a standard diet that you don't really think, oh boy, Lucy, I'm so glad you're home and I'm glad you're safe. So I'm guessing the fact that you're home, you're better. Lucy, yeah, let's pray for Lucy on Instagram, chat with Lucy. Let's just pray for healing and for wiping out nasty diseases in our body. Let's pray for that. So back to the patient that is very common. They are eating a standard American diet, whatever that might be, and they decide, I got to make some changes in my life. I don't feel well. I got joint aches and pains. I got brain fog. I'm getting fatter. These very common things that, you reach midlife and you go, if I don't make a change, I could end up like my parents or my neighbor or my coworker, a friend, or whatever it is. So you decide that you're going to do a ketogenic diet, whether it's carnivore or ketovore or keto. You're going to lower your carbohydrates and you're going to go on what you feel is a healthier diet because you have been eating a standard American diet. So really any change to your diet is a good change, even if you went plant-based. Really, the scenario I'm going to talk about is exactly the same, whether you go to a ketogenic diet or a plant-based diet. So animal-based versus plant-based. Now, there's some nuances once everything kind of stabilizes, but we're going to talk about the initial stages and why we might not want to, buddy, jump down, why we might not want to jump to conclusions and freak out. When you are eating a standard American diet, there is a greater than, there's a very high likelihood that you have developed some fatty liver. Your blood sugar was high. You're eating carbohydrates. You're eating some processed foods with seed oils. You've developed fatty liver. Now, you might not know that you have fatty liver, and there's testing that you can do, but for the most part, doctors do not read into those labs like I do. And maybe you could say, Dr. Jensen, you're just over detailed and you give us way too much things to think about. And that's okay. You can decide for yourself whether or not you want to think about it or not. But when you have been eating a ton of carbohydrates And let's just say you didn't really exercise all that much. You ate a lot of fruit. You drink some alcohol here and there. You don't have a whole lot of muscle mass. You're getting older. Everything's kind of going down. Okay. You're getting a little bit of fat accumulation on your body and you're noticing, I got to make a change. Well, that person, patient, client I'm describing is very common. And that fatty liver needs to resolve because fatty liver is high risk for other chronic diseases, including heart disease or a heart attack or stroke. If you could see him now, he's laying in the one corner of the house that has sun. I don't know if it's a dachshund thing, but that's that's my bias. If the liver is fatty, when you start to lose weight, you start to burn fat, your insulin level is going to go down because you're not eating carbohydrates. If you're not eating carbohydrates, blood sugar is low. Insulin is going to drop, and your body is going to start going through lipolysis rapidly. Lipolysis means breaking down fat, even the fat that's stored in your liver, visceral fat. That fat will start breaking down, and you will have a rise in VLDLs. This is normal. Your liver needs to package up those fatty acids that are being released from the fat cells, the hepatocytes, the fat in the liver. The liver was choking on them, and now it's getting relief. There's no insulin or low or optimal insulin. It's not high. When insulin is high, it forces fat production. When insulin is low, it causes fat to be burned or go through lipolysis. We use the word burn. It's not exactly correct, but I think you guys get the gist of it, okay? So you package up all of these VLDLs, and the VLDLs, okay, Colin, thank you very much for being here. And yeah, we appreciate you, but go watch some tennis. I think you're watching tennis. Or maybe you're watching, no, you're watching racing. Is that what you're watching? Racing? Um, Back to my thoughts. When your liver is breaking down, burning this fat, lipolysis packages up all these VLDLs and sends them out into the bloodstream. That those VLDLs will eventually dump out those triglycerides to tissues, muscle, that sort of thing. There will be, when they dump off their contents, the cargo, they become an intermediate lipoprotein, an IDL. And then they dump off a little bit more and they become an LDL. So what we're going to see on your lipid panel, if we were to check it right away in the first 1 to 3 months, because you guys are overly, um, uh, you just want to see changes. You go from a standard diet, you want to get healthy, and you say, I gotta look at my labs. And honestly, that's when you guys get freaked out because you are going to see that your VLDL could go up, your LDL could go up, and you think you're dying. You are not. This is a normal process. So that's why I like to tell you guys that wait it out. Don't go and check labs so soon because you're in a transition stage, and to transition and heal, you could look worse before you look better, but you're gonna feel amazing. But your labs, your paperwork, you're on paper, you're gonna look worse. And then most of you, because of what this happens, it it causes you to maybe reverse path and you stop doing a carnivore diet. And that's why I suggest that You wait it out, maybe even 6 months before you get your labs again. Now, it's very easy for you guys to go gung ho and you say, I am going to just quit this standard American diet. And I got neighbors and friends and coworkers, and I listen to these doctors, and they're all saying carnivore is the way to go. And that's the way, that's what you decide to do. And you just go cold turkey off of your um, standard American diet, and you go to a animal-based ketogenic diet. Usually a ketogenic animal-based diet is high in fat, saturated fat. Your body, just trust me on this, is not ready for all of that saturated fat. Your body is already choking on fat and it wants to get rid of it. When you eat a bunch of saturated fat, when your liver is under the weather, you package that fat that you're eating into chylomicrons. And those chylomicrons, they're big, giant, fat-filled, triglyceride-filled particles that package up what you eat, send it back up through the thoracic duct into the bloodstream, and it does get recirculated through to the liver. Remember that your liver is already congested, okay? It's got fat in it, and that fatty liver could be, most likely, but could be, maybe not, but could be even choking out your bile ducts. When you eat fat, your liver should produce bile and secrete it into a storage area, your gallbladder. If you don't have a gallbladder, it doesn't mean that your liver's not making bile. But if you can't get it out of the liver because the bile ducts are being squeezed because they're being choked by all the fat, you get a backup of bile. Bile salts can't be secreted, stored in the gallbladder, or even just secreted into the small intestine. When this happens, you cannot emulsify the fat that you're consuming. So you have this fat going into your intestines and it can't be broken down because you can't secrete your bile because it's like sludge. Okay. My recommendation is back off on the saturated fat. You can go animal based, that's fine. But initially, since your liver has been backed up and your gallbladder has probably been hibernating, it would probably be best that you limit the amount of saturated fat. So you would just pick leaner sources initially for the first few months. That could look like lean sources of fish, like whitefish. It could look like filet mignon instead of a ribeye. It could look like chicken and turkey, but leaner sources to get your body primed. Get that liver to shrink its fat and not continue to choke it. Now, there are other variables in here that I didn't even remotely bring up. And I think if we start getting to your questions, okay, maybe it'll bring up some of these nuances with diet. My point as a review is if you go from a standard American diet, there is a good chance that you have fatty liver. If you go gung ho into a high fat carnivore diet or ketogenic diet, you risk stressing your liver even more. And we just need to take it slow. I love that you guys are gung ho. but some of you can't clear the bile in order to break down that fat. It is called cholestasis. It is very common. It's very common in pregnancy. Now, G Man asks, I had my gallbladder removed. How should I secrete my bile? G Man, your liver is what secretes bile. In a functioning liver, it makes bile. And if you don't have a gallbladder to store it in, your liver will still make bile and still secrete it when it sees fat. It just knows. But the process without a gallbladder is much slower. So a person without a gallbladder does not want to eat a giant meal of fat. They might want to eat 3 meals and divide that fat up. So because the liver is not going to secrete the large amount of bile needed to break down a large amount of fat. You still take care of it fine. You just need to go slow. So no, I don't like the fact that they removed your gallbladder, but it is what it is. Your liver can still secrete bile. I'm telling you that if you have fatty liver, which if you had a gallbladder removed, you likely had fatty liver, okay? If you have fatty liver, it's choking on those bile ducts. Even though the liver wants to produce it, it can't secrete it out because the bile ducts are being squeezed. Okay. We got to let them gradually unclog. So you don't want to flood your body with a whole bunch of fat on your transitional diet. This is common whether you went to a carnivore diet or a plant-based diet. At some point, you need to release the fat that's been built up in your liver. Okay. If you had a standard American diet, there is a good chance that you have fatty liver. It might be a little bit of fatty liver or a lot bit fatty liver, okay? And it's just going to take time. Lipolysis to take care of that fatty liver, unclog and relieve the stress on the liver and relieve the stress on the bile ducts. Hopefully this makes sense. Dennis says, sounds like a horrific life without a gallbladder. Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, I guess if Dennis is eating um, a ribeye steak with slathered in some butter, along with some scrambled eggs, yeah, Dennis wanted to eat his ribeye fatty liver with the butter and the scrambled eggs, and he doesn't have a gallbladder. He's going to possibly have what we call a little pseudo gallbladder attack. Okay. He might get some right upper quadrant pain, even some posterior right shoulder pain. And yeah, that would not be um, a good feeling. But yeah, thank you, Dennis, for that giggle. That made me laugh. How much money do you want in super chat? Gatlin, it's not how much I want, it's how much are you willing or wanting to give. If you want to support my channel, you like what you hear, you want to share my information, you feel that the information is pertinent to you and helps you grow in your understanding, then I would appreciate you supporting my channel. If you want to give a super chat or a super sticker, I would be gladly in reception of that, and I would appreciate it. So thank you, Gatlin. I do appreciate your question. Thank you. Um, yeah, thank you, Lucy. If you could, yeah, I spent the first 15 minutes. A lot of times I will just keep talking about the topic of choice or the lecture, but today we cut it just a little bit short because I want to get to your questions in regards to this, this nuance of changing. Thank you, Lucy. I appreciate that. And that was a good one, flow state. I mean, we want the bile to be flowing, so good call on that sticker. Um, Hazel says, give me some advice on 21 and I'm in medical school trying to be a nurse. If you're in medical school and trying to be a nurse, you mean you're going to nursing school or are you going to medical school trying to be a doctor or a PA? I'm going back on eh, you guys, I don't know if on Instagram, if you have questions, you've given a question or asked a question, please restate it. It's hard for me to go back and read all of these things. Um, DM says if there are stones in the gallbladder, will they dissolve on a keto diet? They can dissolve. And this is, you guys probably know me by now, but I'm not really a supplement person. But I have had a lot of patients take stone blockers, gallbladder stone blockers, just over the counter. And it's been very successful. They've been very successful in dissolving their gallstones. But I would caution, Deanne, that you really need to go slow on your fat intake. You do not want to tip that gallbladder, start squeezing. So when we eat fat and you do have a gallbladder, and you have, say you have a stone because your gallbladder wasn't, it was in hibernation. When your gallbladder isn't actively working, he sits and he's hibernating. He can get flaccid, he just gets weak. Okay, and then if you were to change your diet, start eating a bunch of saturated fat, your gallbladder is going to recognize that there is fat on board and wake up. And when it wakes up, he squeezes really hard. And if you have a gallstone, it could squeeze on the gallstone and shoot it into the duct. And you get what we call a ball valve effect. If it doesn't stick completely, he can ball valve up and down from the gallbladder into the duct and back and forth. Okay. So you have to be very careful that you just go slow when you're transitioning your diet. How about that? Okay. That's a good question. But yeah, I think I've seen anecdotal evidence from my patients who have broken up their own stones with stone blockers from Amazon. I don't know any particular brands, so please don't ask me. What food has carbohydrates? Everything that is not come from an animal is probably is a carbohydrate. Okay. Carbohydrates are grains, pastas, cereals, potatoes, anything that grow plants, any plants. Okay. Now, do animals have carbs? Absolutely. They have it in their milk, for instance. Dairy has carbs. Okay. Do I run a lot? No, I do not. I lift weights, right, Lucy? Yep. Okay. Well, Taylor comments and says, just inject NAD and glutathione 3 times a week. Enjoy. Huh. Sounds pretty easy, right? Just inject some synthetic chemicals into your body instead of letting your own body make its own glutathione. Let's see. G-Man says, my doctor told me I can only eat saturated fat. What should I do? I'm not sure what your question is. What do you mean, what should you do? And I guess I don't know why why your doctor said you can only eat saturated fat. Give me some more information. Uh, Schiff says, do you know zeolite? I know of zeolite. What is your opinion on it? I don't know why you're taking it. My question be why would you even consider zeolite? I'm just that is a that's just a question. I just need to know more information. Let's see. Low leptin. Vivi says low leptin, I'm guessing Hashimoto's, and relapsed with TTP. What diet do you suggest? Trying to lose 30 pounds that resulted from steroids. if you have low leptin, why do you have low leptin? Okay. What is low leptin? First of all, define low leptin. Tell the people what TTP is, thrombocytic, you know, what is your mnemonics? I don't want to try to guess. We don't want to try to guess why you were on steroids. Vivi, there's a lot of unknown variables that you might want to consider doing a consultation, and then we can go over your particular information. If you guys want to sign up for a consultation to review your labs, review your medical history, review your medications, I'm all in. Okay. You can email me at ironladydoc@aol.com, IRONLADYDOC at AOL.com. And you can sign up and we can go over things. While we're in a pause right here, if all of you guys on YouTube right now can hit the thumbs up, I would really appreciate it. WH Lockwood asks, do you count calories in your diet? I do not. Let's see. Thank you, Lucy, for providing that information. Vincenta says, intermittent fasting to lose weight helped me lose 20 pounds in 6 months. Congratulations, Vincenta. That's awesome. Congratulations. I'd like to know if Vincenta, what did you do a cholesterol panel? You lost 20 pounds. If you guys read or watched my reels this week, you will find that I did a reel on why when we lose weight or lose fat, it's basically fat burning. When we go into a fat burning mode, we lose weight, we lose fat. Okay. I mean, not always, but generally. Okay. So let's say we lose a bunch of fat. Why does the LDL go up? So it would have been interesting if we had a baseline on Vincetta. Believe it or not, my LDL went up. I mean, that's my point, Vincetta. It will go up because you are starting to mobilize your fat cells. When you had a bunch of fat, 20 pounds of fat, say you lost 20 pounds of fat, you mobilized those fat cells and they started shrinking and dumping their contents. They leaked out their fat and cholesterol. Okay. This is normal. That is not pathologic. It is normal. So your LDL could skyrocket when you lose fat mass. That's normal. And that could go on for months to upwards to a year, Vincetta. Yours could stay up, especially if you are actively still losing weight, still losing body fat. If you are in active fat burning, your LDL will still stay elevated. Once you've stabilized your weight loss, wait 6 months and then recheck your cholesterol panel. It'll likely come back down. If it doesn't, you could possibly be a lean mass hyperresponder. And we could go into in-depth in that too, if you guys want to. My PCP went crazy. Well, of course they did, Vincetta. They saw that your numbers were going up. They blamed it on your diet. And you said, doctor, now I don't want to be derogatory towards you, but don't you know that when you lose weight, you also can lose fat mass and you start going through lipolysis, doctor. And lipolysis means that you are going to be breaking down fat cells and dumping out their contents. And can that, doctor, raise your LDL for periods of time? You might just blow their minds. Carolyn asked, does LDL cholesterol go up with menopause? It does. That is normal. You absolutely will lose some of your protection when you are not menopausal. Estrogen is protective. Lucy says, I've lost 10 pounds since November. It is a slow process, but I'm doing it. Put 3 pounds of muscle on. Goals to lose another 8 pounds. Excellent, Lucy. Keep lifting weights. Keep those carbs down, sleep good, get out in the sun, walk barefoot on the grass. All of those things are good for you. Uh, Vincetta says, how do we enhance the production of glutathione? This has, okay, first let's say, what is glutathione? Let's start with the basics. Glutathione is a master antioxidant produced in your liver. It requires three components to make glutathione. It requires amino acids, cysteine, glycine, and glutamate. You need those three components in order to make glutathione. If you are low on glutathione, you could be low on one of those components. What I have been seeing, especially people who go from a standard American diet to a carnivore diet and simply eat muscle meat. Muscle meat, eggs, maybe some butter. And what happens is because of the high doses of muscle meat and high doses of eggs, which are good in and of themselves, but they're very high in methionine. Methionine, in order for it to be neutralized, it needs 2 glycine for every 1 methionine. So you could see that you eating a bunch of methionine food could cause a deficiency of glycine. We need a ton of glycine. I hate to be a ton of what? What is a ton, Dr. Jensen? I'd say in our world, in our today's world, we need 12 to 15 grams. 12 to 15 grams of glycine is needed. Then, what if you are under a lot of stress or having an infection? Or what if you are cutting back on calories? All of those are stresses and requires glycine to intervene and help you with the reactive oxygen species, the oxidation, the things that are going on that are stressing your body. Takes glycine. So if we are using glycine for all of our things in our body, do you think that you're going to make glutathione? Probably not. If you bump up your glycine, that could be the magic potion to start kicking in and you make glutathione again. Okay. And then magic happens when we have glutathione. You guys all know about glutathione. We need it. It's a master antioxidant. It is so important. Um, Dariush is watching from Iran. Thank you for being here. Uh, no sun yet in Cali. It's because it's early, right? So it's what, 7:30 there? Yes, barefoot on the grass. Gabrielle or Gabriel, not sure. Hello, doctor. So your medical specialty is hematology? No, it is family practice. I kind of have to know it all. Yes, Lucy, eat nose to tail. I guess I should have mentioned that. Well, how do you bump up glycine? Glycine is in collagen. Glycine is in bones. So if you're making bone broth, glycine is in tendons. It's in the connective tissue. So if you are only eating muscle meats, you are going to be low in glycine. All you have to do is start adding in eating, like what Lucy said, eating head to tail, eating the things in between. And if you are not going to drink bone broth and eat the cartilage and the tendons and all of that, then maybe you need to add a glycine supplement. Okay. You're very welcome, Vincent. I'm glad it works. It's helping you. Jared, just hang out. You might learn something. It's slow going. I mean, I'm just basically answering medical questions from you guys. Good morning, Viviana. Thank you for being here. Um, let's see. Munyaza, hi from Madagascar. Your skin is beautiful and firm. What do you do? Well, I eat an animal-based diet. Um, since I am not great at drinking bone broth and eating tendons and cartilage and all of that, I take a uh, cartilage bone broth supplement in the form of a powder. I do that every morning. I also take extra glycine at nighttime. And this has only been recent because I'm one of those people that I was talking to you about, where I was mainly eating muscle meat and eggs and butter and a few sardines a few times a week, and pretty much limited on my diet. Now, initially, when I went from a standard American diet, well, not really. It was just, in fact, it was probably really low in calories. You guys call it calories. I didn't eat very much. Okay. And when I changed my diet, I noticed that my skin was starting to improve. I mean, it wasn't really that bad, but it's much better now. I think a lot of it is due to an animal-based diet. I think just recently it has improved with the addition of the collagen bone broth, as well as the extra glycine that I found out I was needing. I do red light therapy. I have a morning routine where I put on topical vitamin C and a moisturizing cream that includes, it's made by CeraVe. I have a nighttime routine where I um, use 3, 4 days a week a tretinoin cream. On the other days a week, I will do a chemical exfoliant. So there's a lot that goes into my skincare for the last three years, I would say. I've been really concentrating or focusing on it. Um, I feel like I'm, I feel like it's helping. How about that? Uh, oh no, oh no. Okay, so oh no. Would magnesium glycinate be a glycine? It is. That in that I do take magnesium glycinate at bedtime. So magnesium glycinate, 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium bound to glycinate, along with a pure glycine powder for me, okay, gets me about 6 grams of glycine before I go to bed. In the morning, with the collagen bone broth, I'm getting between 3 and 5. Our body makes about 3. So that is upwards to 12 right there. So, you know, the magnesium glycinate, absolutely, it works. Castor oil on her skin at night. I used to do castor oil. I used to do that. Um, I used to actually mix castor oil with coconut oil and put that on my skin. Some people put tallow on their skin. I particularly like a product by Dr. Idris, Idrisa. She is out of New York. I do not work for her. I have used her products for a couple of years now. I like them. Do I also use CeraVe? Absolutely. Do I use La Roche-Posay? Yes. I use a lot of different products. I like to trial and error my products. I have not used castor oil for a long period of time in the winter. I do have that mixture. And before I go to bed, after I put on tretinoin and Dr. Idris products, her basically it's a gel moisturizer that actually has glutathione in it now. Anyway, I don't know all the chemicals that are in it, but when in the wintertime, I will actually put my combination of castor oil slash coconut oil on my face. That acts as a humectant. It seals in. I've even put Vaseline, um, the jelly, Vaseline jelly on my face. It it holds in the moisture. We got to drink plenty of water. Carolyn asks, how do vegans get glycine? They they have to take it in, because if they're not eating any animal products, which is the only way you can get glycine, you have to take it in an amino acid supplement, okay? Like a pure glycine supplement. That would be the only way. WH says, what type of red light equipment do you use? Is it facial? Yes. I think full body or I mean, again, do I know if it's actually working? No, because I do so many other things. If I would have just done red light therapy for 3 years, would it have made a difference? I don't know. I can't answer that. I think it's a little bit of everything. Do I do red light therapy every single day? No, I do it for 9 minutes. I have a red light mask. It's made by Omnilux or Olux, one of those. I can't remember the brand. I think Dr. Rajani, Rajani, Dr. Rajani makes a good mask. I think if I needed a new mask, I might lean toward his, only because it has a lot of red lights more so than my mask. So it's going to have more coverage. There's another one by Cure. They make a very good mask. They are expensive, but it's an investment. If you feel that it could make a change in the collagen and elastin that's going on in your skin, then I think that's a great thing. But if honestly, if you guys are still eating a high sugar diet, it any red light therapy is not going to work, and you're going to blame it on spending a whole bunch of money and wasting your money. No, the red light therapy was working. It's just that there was more glycation going on than what the red light therapy can even make up for. Meaning, when we consume sugars, carbohydrates, that sugar glycates, binds to proteins like elastin and collagen on our skin, or elastin and collagen in our arteries. We cause glycation. So sugar plus protein, this is the protein is collagen and elastin. It's on our skin and our face or whatever, wherever our skin is. It's also in the lining of our arteries. Our arteries have collagen and elastin. Collagen for strength and elastin for the flexibility. But if we have sugar in our bloodstream, it glycates to proteins. It gums them up and makes that protein basically deactivated, or it makes it a bad protein. And that's why we get injury to the lining of our arteries. And that's why we get wrinkles. So my thing is stop the sugar. That's what I did. So we get less AGEs, advanced glycation end products. So I'm blocking AGEs from being produced. Then I could add the red light therapy. Should I be afraid of the LEDs? I don't know, you guys. It's a great question. I just don't even know what to believe anymore. At least it's red and not blue. um, I've seen some studies on full body red light therapy in helping, especially post um, heart attacks, where red light therapy exposed to your whole body, it's kind of like looking at the sun or being in the sun, and exposing your whole body to red light causes increased nitric oxide production. NO, nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is a potent antioxidant, and it is a potent vasodilator. So nitric oxide is very important. Does red light therapy increase nitric oxide? Yes. Could I be increasing nitric oxide on my face when I wear my facial red light mask? Absolutely. I'm getting more blood flow. I'm getting more nitric oxide production. Okay. I'm taking away the AGEs. So the nitric oxide isn't being used up on all the other things. It's just going to vasodilate, and it's going to be an antioxidant, and it's going to be, working tremendously. Okay. I don't think I missed. Oh, J Ham. So Jay asks, can you recommend the supplement brands you use instead of drinking bone broth? Okay. But just hear me out. This is only my research. I I am not loyal to any one brand, so if somebody says, "Hey, can you check this one out?" or "What do you think?" I'm all for it. So I do not work for anybody, nor do I want to promote. You're asking me just in a casual question, "What do you take?" It's not that I recommend it. What do you take, Dr. J? I take Paleo Valley collagen bone broth powder every morning. I use now NOW brand pure glycine. Are there anything magical about those two brands? No. It's just what I ended up leaning toward. Do I take a magnesium glycinate supplement? Yes. I can't even remotely remember the brand. Okay. I can't remember what brand I use. What I try to do is see if they have any types of certifications. So I have to sometimes do a deep dive. And, you know, I want to make sure at least they're certified. And Paleo Valley does pay the money. That's why they're so expensive. Now, no, r- now has been known to do a lot of certifications. Again, that's why the products seem to be a little more expensive. Okay. Let's see. You guys have great questions today. I appreciate that. Uh, Gabrielle. I'm hoping it's Gabrielle. It's Gabriel. Because if it was Gabrielle, it would have another L and an E on it. So I'm gonna say it's Gabriel. Hopefully I got it right, and I apologize if I don't. Doctor, my question is, now I lost it. Darn it. Where did it go, Lucy? Gabriel, where did your question go? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I'm so sorry. Now I just lost it. Oh boy. Ah, here it is. How does one protect the kidneys if you're trying the carnivore diet? Your kidneys are actually breathing, okay, when you do the carnivore diet. But initially, your kidneys, when you go on a carnivore diet, are going to wake up and uh, Lucy, hold tight over there on YouTube. We just had a malfunction on we just had a malfunction over on Instagram. So let's get back online over on Instagram and talk about initially what happens when we go on a carnivore diet. Our sugar goes down, right? Our insulin will go down. When insulin goes down, we will be getting rid of pathological water. Pathological water that was stored up in places, stuck in tissues where we didn't need it. It's pathologic. It wasn't useful for anything. So when insulin drops, you're going to drop a lot of water. The kidneys initially have to work hard to concentrate. This is one reason where I do not believe that overhydration is in our best interest. It forces the kidneys to work hard. If you have a very dilute urine full of water, the kidneys have to work very hard to concentrate that urine. So they got to work overtime, and that stresses the kidneys. When you dump all that water, you're dumping sodium. And so all you would have to do is add back that sodium. Or some people do trace minerals, okay? But if you leave your kidneys kind of struggling, they were struggling before because you were on something other than a carnivore diet, usually a standard American diet. So you were eating a lot of sugar. And sugar is the worst thing for your kidneys, not animals, not animal-based diet. Animal-based diet is not what's causing your kidneys. But if you are forcing your kidneys to do a whole bunch of concentration work because you're diluted your urine, Now the kidneys could struggle. Also, you're going to get a buildup of uric acid. It's your body is going to release the uric acid from any stores plus whatever you're eating. So the kidneys are going to be working on concentrating the urine because you're spilling all of the water and the salt. So uric acid is going to be sitting on the back burner and it could go high. Now, in order to get that uric acid to be secreted later on down the road, guess what you need? You need glycine. So if Gabriel's diet was muscle meat and eggs and butter, then that's high in methionine, using up all the glycine, and you need glycine in order to excrete the uric acid from the kidneys. So uric acid can build up. This is how I believe some people, one of the ways, how some people who are on a carnivore diet end up with coronary artery disease. It's just one aspect, high uric acid. Uric acid is very inflammatory. We need uric acid, but in the amount that we build up in our body, not good, can add to cardiovascular disease and congestive heart failure and probably even AFib on down the line. It's a trickle down effect, okay, or a trickle up, whichever way you want to say it. But uric acid in very high doses is not good. Okay. And so, in order for the kidneys to excrete that uric acid, it needs glycine. So, if you're a person who's on carnivore and eating a bunch of muscle meat and nothing else like cartilage and collagen and bone broth, then you have put yourself in a position where your kidneys cannot excrete that uric acid, and that can add to cardiovascular injury to the arteries. Uric acid is shearing and causing injury to the lining of the arteries. You cause an injury, which develops a blood clot to try to heal a scab. And then that scab can get calcified, or that scab can break off, send it on down, like it cause a stroke. There's a lot going on. And it isn't that the carnivore diet in and of itself is the problem. It's just, initially there's going to be some transition stages, and maybe, just maybe, you don't check your labs right away. Make sure you get a baseline, and then, you know, wait 6 months or so. Let everything equilibrate in your body. Aman, can I ask you some skin related questions? Yes, I can try to answer them. I am not, I'm not, I know I'm not a dermatologist. I just know enough to, yeah, I just know enough to do, absolutely. So far, red light therapy is highly beneficial. So far, so good, right, Vincetta? Uh, Lucy does red light therapy every morning. Oh, on her low back. So Lucy is using it as an anti-inflammatory. And if you guys recall, back in November, Timber my little boy went through some back stuff. He's a little mini dachshund, and you know that we think it was back stuff. I took him to the chiropractor. We did therapy. We did some other modulations and other things, but I did red light therapy on him. One of my friends had the halo, and I used the halo on him for most every day, okay, when I could remember. It's only like a 5-minute therapy, okay? But it's a halo, it's a little handheld device with intensive red light therapy. And I rubbed that on his spine and around his hip flexors and around his glutes. And eventually he snapped out of it, okay? Do I know it was his back? Absolutely not. I do not know, but it just adds up. The chiropractor felt fairly confident, but this is all it's all speculation. Um, it's it I don't think we'll ever know all of the answers, but it's just good to keep looking into things, okay? So Lucy's using red light therapy on her low back for muscle spasms and inflammation. Let's see. Yes, Lucy, Paleo Valley unflavored collagen bone broth. That's the one I use. Yeah, make sure it's unflavored. Correct. Less chemicals, right? No flavor, less chemicals. Oh, Dr. Jade's Vincent. Okay, thank you for being transparent. I'm glad I hit subscribe 2 weeks ago. Well, thank you, Vincent. I appreciate you being here. And thank you for correcting me. I want to get it right. I want to call you by your correct name. Uh, is 2 liters too much water? I would look at the concentration of your urine, Lucy. That's how I would do it. You want it straw yellow. If it's white, it's too much. I'm under the impression that we should drink when you're thirsty. In the summertime, you're going to be thirstier. You're going to be losing a lot of sweat. But I think it's very important that we replace the salt, getting a good mineral salt or taking minerals. I think it's really important. I don't know how hot it is in California. I can only imagine, but here, it's hot, 86, but it's very, very humid, very humid. J La Soul. I noticed that certain water brands, such as Crystal Geyser, increase my thirst or make my mouth dry no matter how much I drink it. Could this be the brand of water? It could be my health. Gosh, it sounds like, honestly, Jayla, that sounds more like the brand. There could be something else in it. I'm not sure, but that doesn't sound right. I'm not sure, Jayla. I would have to really think through this and look at your other labs. I don't want to speculate, but nothing is like coming to my brain right now to answer your question, okay? I would try a different brand and see if that brand also causes dry mouth, okay? I don't know if you're on any medicines that can do it as well. Uh, Lucy, do you do your red light therapy at the gym or have something for you at home? I would love to know what you use if it is at home. There are red light blankets, there are red light little booths you can buy. There's red light masks. Like I said, you could use the halo. It doesn't always necessarily have to be for your dog. I did try the halo. Where did I do the halo? I think it was on, I can't even remember. It was November. I can't remember what I tried it on to see. I think it was my thumb, the MP joint here, metacarpal phalangeal joint of my thumb. I think that's what I did it on, but I can't remember if I was consistent. Let's see. Oh no, says, this is some great information. Thank you. You're very welcome. You got to let me pick you up if you want up here. Hold on, you guys. You want up? He's got such a long body. He's hard to squeeze. He's a hard one. That's my buddy Blue. He looks good in blue. My little BB. Thank you, Jaisal, for the super chat. May I ask your thoughts on cod liver oil? I'm a believer in cod liver oil. If you want to do cod liver oil, like I said earlier, I put it occasionally we'll still put it on my face. I think I think cod liver oil has some good features. It's vitamin D, vitamin A. If you don't like to eat fish and you can swallow down cod liver oil, good job. I would not heat it and drink it. That's a for sure. I don't like any oils heated. Okay. All right. Making sure you guys on Instagram are so quiet. Are you guys okay over there? I know I probably lost some of you when the Instagram just automatically or intermittently, I should say, just cuts me off and then I have to restart it. Okay. Oh, now YouTube's kind of getting quiet on me. What else? Lucy, did I miss any questions in here? Okay, thanks, Details. I appreciate you being here. That's awesome. Oh, you're very welcome, Allie. Allie says, thanks for explaining. This stuff, you guys, it's tough. I There's a lot of nuances when I'm going over your labs. It's there's a lot of nuances. And what bothers me or frustrates me in the last few years is the doctors who simply just look at one number on the piece of paper and don't put all things into context. Don't get um, a variety of labs to understand what is going on. For instance, Allie has a ferritin level of 13. For those of you who know, 13 ferritin is pretty low. And most doctors would look at a ferritin and say, you're iron deficient. But are you iron deficient? Or is your iron locked up somewhere? So ferritin is measuring bound iron, okay? A too low ferritin and a too high ferritin can be just as devastating, okay? And both of them could indicate that you have iron dysregulation. I've been taught that the word anemia probably should not be used because when you guys hear the word anemia, you automatically think iron deficient when you may not be iron deficient. Now, Allie also says that she's got ulcerative colitis, which is an inflammation in the bowels. It forms ulcerative lesions. And, Allie, I'm sure that you know this already, is that ulcerative colitis is high risk for getting colon cancer. And you have fibroid. Fibroid where? Where is your fibroid? So if I was looking at Allie, I would want all of her labs, not just ferritin, not just the hemoglobin, because I imagine that Allie probably has a normal hemoglobin and normal hematocrit, or optimal, I should say, optimal. Um, that is uterine fibroid. So, many doctors, functional medicine doctors would tell Allie that Allie could be low in iodine. Is her uterine fibroid um, a cause of her ferritin? We don't know. Is her fibroid or any other nodules that she has developed due to an iodine deficiency? We don't know because no one's ever checked her iodine level that I know of. I mean, Allie might correct me, but I doubt doctors go out of their way to check an iodine level in anybody that has a thyroid nodule or a fibroid, or a breast nodule or a uterine nodule like a fibroid. I just don't know that that even crosses their mind. It would cross my mind, but as far as Allie is concerned in the low ferritin, which was the first question that she asked, I would get a full iron panel, an iron level, a transferrin level, an iron binding, so total iron binding capacity, a TIBC, and a saturation. I would get all of them. I would also check liver function. I would get well, I mean, it's on the chem profile, but I'd get an ALT, an AST, an alkaline phosphatase level, Alk Phos, alkaline phosphatase. I would get a GGT. I would look at the fragility of her red blood cells. I'm going to look at the MCV. The MCV is on the CBC. That's the mean M corpuscular C volume. If we have large red blood cells, those are very fragile. They're not very healthy. And we need to know what is going on with the liver. Does Allie have some fatty liver going on? If Allie's eating a high plant diet, she's basically feeding inflammation to an inflamed ulcerative colitis. Colitis means inflammation of the colon with ulcers. We need to take away anything that is causing inflammation. And I would start with the diet. We need to start with the diet, removing inflammation. The least inflammatory diet that I'm biased toward is an animal-based diet. but I would not be eating dairy. Dairy is very inflammatory. So, an elimination diet looks like meat, ruminant meat, salt, and water. These are the things. This is not medical advice. That's my disclaimer. This is for information purposes only. Is my way, or is it my way or the highway? No. I don't know. I have flip-flopped so many times, you guys. And the reason it's a flip-flop, and I know that doesn't sound very good, but is because I'm open to learning other things. For the first 20 years of my career, I'm coming up on 28 years of practice. You guys, for the first 20 years, I can honestly say that I was indoctrinated with whatever the medical system fed me. And it's always one-sided. It was always one-sided. And they made you do this and follow that line of thinking because the risks of not following that line of thinking was devastating. One, you wouldn't get paid very, very well. And two, if you got sued, there was no protections. So it was very, um, for me, beneficial, not for you, but for me, beneficial. So I won't, if I follow standard of care, have less likely chance of getting sued. And two, I have a more, um, the propensity to get paid better is much better. Okay, it's much, much, much higher if I follow standard of care. And so that is one of the reasons why I left organized medicine and I only do online medicine. I just want to teach you guys. I want to teach you that there could be something else, some other possibility. All right? There's some other possibility. Could there be? I think yes. That's what science is you constantly think up, is this science is not written in stone is what I want to say. We hypothesize, like I like to hypothesize, like what if? What if it's not LDL causing your heart attack? What if it's blah blah blah? Okay? I like the what ifs. I like to hypothesize. And then you form a theory. And then you try to prove or disprove, and then it becomes, is it science? I don't know. I would hope that you have enough peers out there that are challenging. But if we don't challenge, and if the doctors are not thinking outside the box just because they're protecting themselves, then what is that doing for you? Nothing. So that's why you need to go and do your own education. The clients I have, sometimes I wonder why they're asking me for advice or me to review their labs and all of that, because you guys are so intelligent, so smart, so well read that a lot of times you guys are teaching me. You teach me something. I go, oh, I got to look that up. I write it down. Or I'm looking it up as you're talking, and I'll say, yay or nay. Oh my gosh, thanks for bringing that up. I'm gonna go look into this. So you guys probably have more of an edge over those stagnant stick in the mud doctors that you're listening to and have been bamboozled, that's my word, by the buffoonery, my word, over decades. 30, 40 years, you've been fed that if your LDL is high, you're going to have a heart attack. Details. You taught me a lot, Dr. J. You are saying things no one else is telling us. I was once one of those doctors, though, details. I told you that, okay? I was once one of them. And I call it a God wink. God started just like knocking on my head and saying, hey, you know, waking me up and probably trying to wake me up for years because I have these gut feelings. I call them a gut feeling, which is the Holy Spirit trying to work on me and trying to give me what I think is doubt, where I felt unsure. Do I still feel a little unsure? Yeah, every day. Every day I wonder on every consult or every live stream or every reel, am I telling the truth? I don't know. I really don't know. all I would like to do is open up your eyes, open up your brain, and get it to start working and think of other possibilities. I could very well be wrong about the thrombogenic hypothesis of coronary artery disease. I listened this morning to a lecture by Dr. Malcolm Kendrick, who is very, very on board with the thrombogenic hypothesis. Okay. And he said today, because I've been doing deep dives into this, he said today that if you go carnivore, your LDL does not matter. And I want to ask, I would love to be on, not to deny him. I just want to question him and say, doctor, if a carnivore has high LDL, shouldn't we check the size of those LDLs? My instinct is yes, because can a carnivore have high, small, dense LDLs? I believe yes. Why? Because I've seen it. I'm still in clinical practice where I'm still seeing. I'm not just sitting behind books and reading things, okay? Not that I don't know what he's doing, but I just question that direct thought. LDL in a carnivore doesn't matter because they're thinking, this is what I think they're thinking, is that if you lowered your carbohydrates, you will not make small dense LDLs. True. That's very true. Can you make small dense LDLs any other way? Yes. Yes. I'm going to give you one example. If you are a stressed type of person, you are always in fight or flight. You're a type A, you're hyper vigilant, you are go, go, go. Little things, they just get to you. You don't sleep well at night. You ruminate over the possibilities. You are just you worry about other people. You're just that hyper vigilant, overactive. You never can relax. You might feel that you're relaxed, but you're so used to being in chronic sympathetic overdrive that even when you do relax, it feels odd to you. That hyper sympathetic overdrive not only causes high cortisol. You guys all know that. You're stressed, you release cortisol, you raise blood sugar, but other things are going on. Did you know that a stressed out person, hypersympathetic, let's just call a person who's fight or flight all the time, they're so used to it, they don't think anything is wrong, but their fat cells are actually leaking all the time. They're leaking out free fatty acids because your fat cells hold that. Even if you say, I don't have very many fat cells, you got fat cells. Come on. I have fat cells. And if I'm a stressed, overactive, vigilant person, my fat cells are leaking out triglycerides, even though I'm not eating sugar. I got hyperactive hepatic lipase, liver lipase. ACE means breakdown, an enzyme that breaks down fat. My hepatic lipase is overactive, trying to break down those fats. They start leaking, my fat cells leak out triglycerides. Now my liver needs to package up VLDL with those triglycerides because they're there. I can't do anything with them. I'm going to package them up and try to deliver them to all my other cells, like my muscles. So if you don't have any muscle, then where are you going to take those triglycerides? It's a fuel, you guys. So a hypervigilant carnivore could look like they got higher VLDL when they shouldn't because they're not eating a sugar diet and their small dense LDLs are more than they should have. And you say, okay, Dr. Jensen, slow down. You're like confusing my brain, right, Buckingham? I'm like confusing my brain. Let's just back up. How do we get a small dense LDL? Yeah, I know it's carbohydrates, but why? The liver packages up triglycerides, fuel, into VLDLs and sends that VLDL out into the bloodstream. And that VLDL normally will dump off energy, triglycerides, to tissues that need it. And it becomes an intermediate density lipoprotein. And then it dumps off a little bit more and becomes a low density lipoprotein. That LDL simply has cholesterol in it. It's empty, it's void of any more triglycerides. They've all been dumped off. Now, the LDL is supposed to dump off its cholesterol and then head back to the liver. And then the HDL picks up any remnant cholesterol and delivers it back to the liver as well. See, this is a normal process. But if you are a person who's constantly packaging up VLDL, whether it's from eating a high carb diet or you're a carnivore and a very stressed person and you're packaging up VLDL, you have VLDL. And that VLDL can bump into LDLs in the bloodstream. High VLDL bumps into LDL, and this reaction right here, this collision, causes the VLDL to transport its contents, the triglycerides, into an LDL. Now, you heard me talk, the LDL was never supposed to have triglycerides. Remember, it only has cholesterol. So, if a VLDL gives toxic triglycerides to the LDL, you've now exposed that LDL to the environment, to the elements. Not only did the VLDL give its triglycerides to the LDL, but the LDL gave some of its cholesterol to the VLDL. Now you got basically what I would refer to as a naked LDL. And that naked LDL has a higher risk of getting oxidized. And because that LDL dumped off its cholesterol and now it's kind of full of some triglycerides, it's shrinking down into an LDL, a small, dense LDL. This is where the small, dense LDLs come from on a carnivore diet. Two different routes. The nervous sympathetic overdrive person who's leaking out their fat cells and their liver is going through gluconeogenesis, and your adrenal gland cortex is secreting cortisol, which raises blood sugar. All of these things could be that carnivore who felt like invincible. They felt like Teflon and nothing can get to them. Yet you look at their blood and they have high LDLs and you say, oh, that's normal. That was what I heard Dr. Kendrick say. But if for me, I want to check your particle size and maybe not right away, maybe 6 months down the road, because I want your body to have accommodated to all this. Remember, I said that when you lose fat, you're going to break down your fat cells, lipolysis, and cause a rush of LDLs into your bloodstream. Let's wait it out and then check that person down the line and say, hey, I think we should get an NMR, a nuclear magnetic resonance imaging of your LDLs. Let's see the size of the LDL, the number of the LDL. Let's get it exact. If you have a lot of small, dense LDLs, does that necessarily mean that you're going to have a heart attack? No. But what if I get an oxidized LDL level? Oh, well, now, okay, now we're measuring the really, really sticky guys, the ones that have already been kind of damaged. Do those necessarily mean that we got a problem? No. Oh, Dr. Jensen, you're really confusing me. So you say that a carnivore who's stressed out could still have small, dense LDLs and oxidized LDLs and still not have a problem. True. Likelihood? Not very likely. Because their stress is causing an injury to the lining of the artery. The blood sugar is causing a injury to the lining of the artery. Their lack of sleep is causing an injury to the lining of the artery. So if you have high, small, dense LDLs, you risk having those stick to the blood clot and cause plucking, right? Does always measuring oxidized LDL mean that you are toxic? No. When we measure oxidative LDL, we're measuring it in the bloodstream. Does that mean it's on the tissue yet? No. So could you be healing those injuries? Yes. And then the oxidized LDL doesn't stick to it? Correct. How do you heal the lining of your arteries? One, take away the constant chronic injury, right? So you got to fix your stress if that's it. You got to fix your blood sugars if that's it. You got to fix your sleep. You got to increase your parasympathetic nervous system. You got to take away whatever it is that is causing the injury. Maybe it's blue light and lack of sun. Who knows? Anything that injures that glycocalyx, that innermost lining, that slippery little layer, allows access of a lot of toxic particles. And one of those could be a small, dense, or even an oxidized LDL. Carolyn says she is a stressed out person. Her triglycerides are elevated. Now, I'm going to assume Carolyn has been following I'm guessing a low carb diet. Help me out, Carolyn. Are you following a low carb, ketogenic, carnivore diet? If you are still consuming carbs, your triglycerides are going to be high, whether you have stress or not stress. If you're stressed, the triglycerides are going to be even higher. You could possibly have an inability to, it's genetic, where you are packaging up a lot of VLDLs. This is somewhere Carolyn, you said yes, but is it yes that you're eating a low carb diet? So very little carbs, you're high stressed and you have high trigs? Is that what you're saying? Just say yes if I'm assuming correctly, because we want to do this case study so everybody understands the whole scenario, that you are low carb and you are, I'm guessing, exercising, and you are still have high triglycerides, and you can't understand why. If you have any type of fat cells on you, they are leaking. They're leaking out triglycerides. One. Two, your liver is being told to produce blood sugar because you're stressed. And three, your adrenals are also causing the adrenaline release, which also elevates blood sugar. So not only are you having high triglycerides from high blood sugar, but you're having high triglycerides from the leaking of your fat cells. In your case, Carolyn, you could make tremendous gains by lowering your sympathetic overdrive and increasing parasympathetic tone. So maybe your job is, you've already fixed your diet. That's not the case. You're eating carnivore, you're eating ketogenic. Your problem is not sleeping, and it's adrenaline, cortisol, and lipolysis going on in your body. And that is not good. And you're continuously, your fat cells shouldn't be leaking if you have high blood sugar and high insulin. So I'm guessing your insulin level is probably over 5. It could be 8, which you say, well, it's not that bad. No, it's not. But that little bit of high insulin should actually be stabilizing your fat cells. They should not be leaking if insulin is higher. Insulin, it causes fat growth. So you're in a really metabolic mess when your insulin is high and your fat cells are leaking. That is a really resistant fat cell. You have insulin resistance really bad, but nobody looks at those things. So to answer your question, you need to work on your chronic stress. okay? That chronic stress, you know, another thing I failed to mention, if you have high chronic stress, then you likely have fatty liver. I would get an AST, ALT, GGT, Alk Phos, MCV on your CBC, and honestly, I bet you have fatty liver disease. I bet your ALT and AST are over 15. You might not have any bile duct problems, so your GGT and your Alk Phos will be, you know, your Alk Phos will be less than 100, your GGT will be less than 20, and luckily you don't have bile duct injury yet. And not always will the enzymes ALT and AST be elevated. And you'll say, "See, doctor, I don't have fatty liver disease." But honestly, if you have high insulin or higher insulin, you most likely have fatty liver disease. You need a right upper quadrant abdominal ultrasound, or get a Fib4 scan. They'll call you crazy, but I would get it. I would make sure. Lucy asks, which magnesium do you take that has 400 milligrams? There isn't one that has 400 milligrams. I have to take multiple capsules. If elemental, it's usually one capsule will have like 50, 60, maybe up to 80 milligrams of elemental magnesium. And so you have to take 3 or 4 of them, or 5. You just have to, you want to look at on the label, you want to look at the elemental uh, amount of magnesium. If it says 60, in order to get 400, you're going to take 6 or 7 of them throughout the day or at night to get your enough of elemental magnesium, which is usually right around 400. Um, okay. Sorry, you guys, I'm trying to look through all of this. If you have a question and I'm not getting to it on YouTube, you can always do a super chat. It'll put you right to the top. Seasoned Troll says, Doc, I have been on testosterone therapy for a while, but my primary levels aren't really rising. So your total testosterone isn't rising. What type of testosterone therapy are you taking? Is it topical? Is it IM, intramuscular, or is it sub-Q, subcutaneous? What is your free testosterone level? What is your estradiol level? What is your DHT level? Are you converting, aromatizing testosterone to estrogen? Lots going on. If you have high insulin, your testosterone level may not go up. Yeah, Lucy, thank you. Let's hit the like button. If you guys haven't hit the like button or the subscribe button, please do so. Vincent says, I feel like my PCP just follows the book. When I visit, A1C 6.0, 6 months later, 6.0. Well, it's time for metformin. What are your thoughts? No, it's not time for metformin. That's my thoughts. I don't even know what your other labs are. Why is your A1C at 6.0? What diet are you eating? In my day, if you had a 6.0, I would have definitely put you on metformin. But now knowing that metformin has its drawbacks too, it is a toxin to your mitochondria. It's a mitochondrial toxin. And you mix metformin with exercise and you really get um a mitochondrial toxin. I know it sounds crazy, but it's almost like it exacerbates the metformin to be even more of a mitochondrial toxin. And you say, shouldn't we be exercising when we got diabetes? Uh-huh. So, well, you're going to take the metformin. Plus, here's another thing, Vincent. The job of metformin is to open up the doors on your cells to accept glucose. So you guys know that initially when you're when you're developing diabetes, your your blood sugars go up, right? But You have insulin on board, and insulin is going to be pumped out of the pancreatic beta cells to lower blood sugar. So it looks like you don't have diabetes, but you do because you are needing a whole bunch of insulin to take care of your blood sugars to keep them should be less than 100, but I've never, if you have high insulin, even insulin has trouble for years and years and years keeping blood sugars low. They just don't do it. I got a gnat right here. Two gnats. Two gnats. I think I got them. Okay. So by the time you're 6.0, you are very insulin resistant. And meaning your cells closed their doors and closed the number of doors on the cell. It doesn't want any more injury. They're full. Your fat cells are full. If I so let's just picture your cells as a balloon and you filled it with air and you say, I can't, the doors are closed, no more air can come in. But you take something to force more air into the balloon. What does the balloon do? Breaks, ruptures. So, what doctors do is they will give metformin to bring down blood sugars, right? Does it work? Absolutely. Where does the blood sugar go? It goes into cells, like fat cells. But if you know biology, you know that those cells, the reason the blood sugar went up in the first place is because they were full. They're not taking in anymore. And now you're going to give a medicine to open up the doors to jam in more fuel, sugar, and it didn't want any. Is that really good for us? Yeah, you lowered the blood sugar, and your doctor's going to pat themselves on the back and say, I did it. At least their blood vessels are going to be okay. But I'm going to force cells to take in energy when they don't want. If I keep forcing energy into a cell, what happens? You're right. It breaks open and leaks out triglycerides and cytokines and all of these inflammatory things. And when you have a bunch of inflammation in your body, you become more and more prone to all of the other chronic diseases. All because you gave something to lower the blood sugar, fixed a number on a piece of paper. And if I don't look at another number like an insulin level, I didn't look, I didn't see it, and I can't do anything about it. And if you guys ask for an insulin level, we don't do that here. We just treat your blood sugar. But doctor, see, that's where you guys need to be educated, okay? All right. Yeah, right, Lucy. I'm going to look at the A1C of 6.0, look at the root cause, and remove the problem. You don't add things to patch up things. That's what Lucy has been with me for a while. She almost knows exactly what I'm going to say. Um, this is a good question by Silja. This is a very good question. You YouTubers, or excuse me, you Instagrammers, hold tight here. But let's go with Sil. Silja says, I'm from Germany. My question is, the iron that is locked up in tissues, is it of any use or does it need to be released somehow? Very good question. This locked up iron, it's stuck in tissues like the liver, like the thyroid, like your skin, anywhere it can get hung up. It is unbound. It's free. When it is free, it can be destroyed much easier. It can enter into, I don't even know if I want, it enters into a Fenton reaction. Plain and simple, free, unbound iron can be easily oxidized. It can rust. It can encourage inflammation. It can cause fatty liver. All of the things we need iron. It is life sustaining. It's just that we don't have iron maybe in the right place or the right kind that is absorbable. All of that unbound iron might be non-heme iron. We never absorbed it in the first place. Non-heme iron is from plants. Heme iron is from animals. If you are a plant-based person, you have tons of non-heme iron that cannot be absorbed. Even if you took a, a lot of vitamin C. I was going to say something else. A lot of vitamin C. It doesn't matter. You can't absorb it. Some can get stuck in tissues. It's even worse if you have an inability to get that iron out of the liver. Well, what do you mean? Well, if it's locked up, that means the transport system to get out is not working. What is the transport system? It is called ferroportin. Ferro, iron, portin, transport. If you have locked up iron, your ferroportin level will be low. Well, why do you have low ferroportin? Well, you could have low ceruloplasmin. Well, why do you have low ceruloplasmin? Well, you could have low copper. Oh, well, why would I have low copper? Well, you could have high zinc. And why would I have high zinc? Well, you could be taking it. You could be eating a meat-based diet. You could be eating a vegan diet and have too much zinc. I don't know if I answered Silja's question, but yes, it needs to come out, plain and simple. And you need to look downstream and say, huh, maybe I should look at a ceruloplasmin level. Maybe I should look at a copper level. Maybe I should look at a zinc level, a selenium level. Okay. Yes, Jack. Jack is reminding Lucy. I'm sure Lucy already knew this already, but Jack is reminding Lucy that some psych meds cause elevated A1C regardless of diet. How is that, Jack? Can you teach Lucy why a psych med will increase our risk of diabetes? Okay. Is it similar to how a statin can increase our risk of diabetes? Are we messing with the GLUT4 receptors that are that need to be active in order to take in blood sugar? Is it the medicine that is messing with the lipid raft where that's the docking station for the GLUT4? So the GLUT4 is fine, but the lipid raft, the docking station on the cell membrane is not working? A lot of things going on. Why are psych meds increasing risk of diabetes? Vincent says, as much as possible, I stay away from white. I stay away from bread, rice, pasta, granulated sugar. That's my idea of eating clean. Vincent, it could be more than just that bread, rice, pasta. It could be oatmeal that you think is so great. It could be any other grain. It could be any other plant. It's usually a processed plant. Sil just says, in my recent experience is that when I add to my internet research under the aspects of functional medicine, so you're basically feeding the AI the direction you want it to go. I think that's okay, but it's only going to be in that direction. As you get more brilliant, Silja, you will start asking AI questions, even though your AI is leaning functional. Meaning, I if my AI is leaning functional because it's already knows me, and then I say something like Dr. Malcolm says that LDL you shouldn't have to worry about LDL if you're eating carnivore. And maybe 2 years ago or a year ago, I would have gotten on board, but now I know how to ask, and I go, "Yeah, but," because it will defend Malcolm Kendrick. Not that he needs any defending, but because the way it's leaning, it will defend Malcolm Kendrick, but it could also bring up a lean muscle hyperresponder. And then I could say, "Okay, I'm on board with what you're saying." I usually say that. "Okay, I'm on board with this. But what about these small dense LDLs? What about overactive CTAP? What if you are a person with overactive CTAP, CETP?" I'm just I don't want to totally get into that, but it is genetics. And you are an overactive CTAP. And Dr. Kendrick didn't even bring that up. And it's not because he might not have known, it's just that he didn't even think to go there. So, but over time, you guys will know to feed in other questions, even though the AI might be leaning a certain direction. Even if it was leaning toward the LDL theory, if it was leaning toward the LDL hypothesis, you guys know to ask about the particle size, the particle number. Are they oxidized? Are they just small and dense? What is the HSCRP? What is your MCV? You know, you're going to learn that there's more questions you want. And AI will tell you, "Oh my gosh, you're bringing up some very brilliant things. Let's talk about it." All right. Lucy says, "My last blood work, my detox pathways, I don't know what those are, were good. Why is it hard for me to sweat?" Lucy, get a copper level. Get a serum copper level. I'm guessing you have low serum or on the low end of optimal serum level. Okay. Yes, Adam. Insulin is very anabolic. We need insulin or we would die, right, Adam? I mean, you know this. It's just that most 80% of the population has too much insulin. And if you have too much anabolic going on, you not only get bigger, fatter fat cells, but you grow everything, Adam, every cell, including, you guessed it, a cancer cell. Insulin is very anabolic. It causes growth. Insulin, high insulin increases mTOR. mTOR is very anabolic. If you have high insulin and therefore high mTOR, you're growing everything. And guess what? When you have high insulin and high mTOR all the time, you do not go into autophagy. So you are not cleaning house. Your mitochondria are dead in the water. And this is why type 1 diabetics or type 2 diabetics on insulin or bodybuilders dosing themselves with a bunch of insulin are high risk of heart attacks. They want to take insulin in order to grow their muscles bigger, faster, stronger, yet they don't realize that they're causing high mTOR, an increased risk of all the cells in their body growing. So their organs are growing. Their fat around their liver is growing. Well, Dr. Jensen, that seems odd. Have you seen a bodybuilder up on stage? They have absolutely no body fat. Hmm, they're what? Thin on the outside, fat on the inside? Look at their distended belly. That is organ fat sticking out, pushing against their nice six pack that you see from the outside, and they are dying on the inside. High insulin. Type 1 diabetics who eat a bunch of crap, type 2 diabetics that eat a bunch of crap that need more insulin, you're just feeding cells to be, yeah, you guessed it, anabolic. Could be good. You want to grow your muscles, could be bad. You're growing all cells. Trolley wants us to say happy birthday to Alada. Happy birthday, Alada. 60 years old. Let's see. Eric. Um, Eric says, I'm 60 years old, muscular. Are there any supplements that I should consider besides a multivitamin? Why are you wanting to take a multivitamin, Eric? What is the purpose of a multivitamin? Why are you taking fish oil? Are you low in omega 3s? Why are you taking creatine? Do you not eat enough red meat that you need to supply even more? You eat high protein. Is your high protein a bunch of protein powder? Eric, there are so many variables in your question. I don't even know if it was a question, but well, I guess it is a question. Are there any supplements? No, I would want to find out more about your labs. I want to know about your medications. I want to know about your past medical history. There's a lot that I would need to know, Eric, and maybe you want to consider a consultation. You're very welcome, Vincent. Um, oh, Logan. Logan, you might have come across the wrong podcast today. So, Lucy, I don't even know that I would waste my time on Logan, and you might just need to take care of that. Season troll, wow, doctor, I have no idea what some of those words mean, but I know you know your stuff. Hey, season troll, if there's a word you do not know, please call me out on it and ask me. Just say, slow down. What does that mean? Doc, where do you think the assumption that oatmeal was essential in bodybuilders? Huh, that's a good question. I think the reason oatmeal got its credentials is because it's fiber. And fiber, you want to get, I mean, I was telling patients to get 30 grams of fiber a day at one point, so I could prevent them from getting colon cancer. I never once told them to stop eating sugar. I never once told them to exercise. I just said, make sure you get 30 grams of fiber. How should I do that? Just eat some oatmeal. Um, it's tough. Nobody knows about plants. Nobody knows about the plant toxins. Nobody knows about phytates and oxalates and lectins and saponins and tannins. We just don't know these things. We just say, oh, we need to feed our bacteria. Well, you're not really feeding you. You don't eat oatmeal. Your bacteria's eating oatmeal. You can't break down any plant. You do not have cellulase enzyme in you. You're an animal. You do not break down plants. Your bacteria can break it down, but it doesn't break down everything. Or else, if it did break down everything, you would not have waste, a bowel movement. So it only sucks out what it eats, and the rest is called waste. Plus, you're getting a whole bunch of chemicals from the plant. Oh no, I do organic. It's never been sprayed. Did you block it out from the air and the wind from the neighboring field? This is why I don't eat plants. I mean, it I know that my body doesn't need them. Now I might need copper and I might need glycine, but there's reasons why. Okay? But there's nothing about a plant that I need. Well, what about the fiber? But my bugs in my colon don't eat plants. They eat meat and eggs and collagen and sardines. So I'm going to feed the bugs that eat the food I want. And for the most part, you guys, my food is basically absorbed 90% or more in the small intestine. Not a lot gets to my large intestine and goes out as waste. Okay? Yeah, Lucy, check your copper level. Check your copper. You could be so sensitive. If your copper's on the low end of normal, you won't be able to sweat. You'll be what I would say bone cold all the time. And remember, if you don't have copper, your thyroid is not functioning to the ultimate either. Okay. And if you have any type of liver dysfunction, even if your thyroid wasn't working or was working, even if your thyroid was working, you have a little bit of liver fat, guess what? You're not going to be able to convert your T4 into T3. You need an enzyme in the liver that converts that. If you don't have much of that enzyme because you have liver fat because of high insulin or lack of copper, then you're going to have a higher reverse T3. Okay? All right. Lucy says, I called these detox pathways GGT, ALT, AST, bilirubin, Alk Phos for liver function. Okay. A creatinine and a GFR for kidney clearance, but you are an exerciser, Lucy, and you eat meat and you are a certain age. Okay. So you need to get a cystatin C. Cystatin C. It is better than a creatinine and a plain GFR. You want a cystatin C, Cystatin, cystatin C, and that'll give you an accurate level that is removes the age, removes the gender, removes the exercise, and is more accurate. You'll get a more accurate GFR via a cystatin C than you will get with a simple BUN, creatinine, and GFR on a complete metabolic profile. Carolyn says, what type of doctor should I see for help with high triglycerides, insulin resistance? Do you need a doctor, Carolyn, to tell you or confirm that you have high triglycerides and insulin resistance? You just need to run some tests. Do you have insulin resistance? Just get it. You know what? If your doctor will not order an insulin level, then get it on your own. Get these labs on your own. Okay. I know they're expensive. I'm not trying to sell you anything, and I'm not trying to spend your money. Okay. Steph says, I've had insulin resistance for a year and no doc has brought it up. Checking fasting insulin. I had to find doctors on IG, Instagram to learn this. Steph, that is one of the reasons where I went online is I'm it, I know you could say, Dr. Jensen, you really only have about 35,000 people. I mean, all these other gurus have a million followers. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. 35,000 people listening to me is more than 10 a day. I was only seeing 10 people a day, 14 at the most. In my practice, when I was working for corporate, I was seeing 40 patients a day. Steph, in all reality, do you think if I was seeing 40 patients a day, I would have time to read anything else besides what they were feeding my little brain with? No. I was just hoping to get my medical charts documented and go home before 8 o'clock at night. You're spending 12-hour days. That's why in these big corporations, they will hire scribes where the notes will already be done and you just keep going room to room to room to room, and the nurse is taking all the notes and doing the progress notes for the doctor, and the doctor just signs it. I mean, how crazy is that? I don't know. I didn't have that luxury. I would have liked that luxury because it took me half an hour to do a medical chart. Let's see. Steph says there are protocols out there to get your iron functioning and then blood donations to dump the stored iron. Steph, keyword, dump the stored iron. Dump the stored iron. If it's stored, Steph, how do you dump it? When you go dump blood, you're dumping blood iron, not stored iron. Remember, the stored iron is locked up. It's locked up because maybe low ferroportin due to low ceruloplasmin, due to low copper, due to low whatever, due to high zinc. Steph, when you dump blood, you're fixing a number on a piece of paper. You didn't fix the stored iron, you fixed the blood iron, and it might not have had a problem. You fixed a hemoglobin and a hematocrit. Did you fix dysregulation? Doubtful. But thank you for bringing that up because it helps me teach other people. Okay. Buckingham says, do you have a list of labs we should ask for? The doctor only does the alleged standard. Yeah, Buckingham, you can email me at ironladydoc@aol.com. IRONLADYDOC at AOL.com. If you're in certain states and your doctor won't order them, I can order your labs in certain states. And I do get a little bit of a discount in it, but there are all kinds of labs you can use. You don't have to use the lab I use, okay? You sometimes don't even need. I like you to have options so you can compare prices. So if you ask me to order them and this certain list of labs cost $300, but yet you can buy it from somewhere else for 275, buy it from somebody else for 275. See what I'm saying? Is you just have a way to compare prices. But yeah, if you email me, yes, Buckingham, I agree. Oats are really only for animals to fatten them up and take them to slaughter because it increases blood sugar. Blood sugar increases insulin. Insulin increases growth of fat cells. Oats. If you want to be a cow, eat what a cow eats. Which labs, Carolyn? Email me and I can send you the list. Steph says you also mentioned standard of care. That's the answer you get instead of what you're doing for us now. Correct. Correct. I used to be only standard of care. Just do what the three-letter agencies tell you to do so you can get paid and protect yourself from but I'm no longer seeing patients, Steph. I'm just I'm a doctor coach. I'm a coach. I'm not giving you medical advice. I'm giving you some suggestions to talk to your doctor about. Okay, not medical advice. It's for information purposes only. The information I'm feeding you, it could be all wrong, right, Steph? Could be completely off. But I opened up your brain cells and got them thinking. I got you to question Dr. J or validate Dr. J. No, if Steph, if the iron is locked up in the tissues, is not getting out. It's not getting out into the blood so you can dump it. No, Steph, I don't think that you can mobilize free unbound iron locked up. It has to get out. It needs a transport. If the transport is broken, then it isn't going to get back into the bloodstream. You know, okay. So dumping blood isn't going to force more out of the tissues. I don't see. Could I be wrong? Absolutely, I could be wrong, but I can't logically see it. If there's no elevator to get on from the inside to the outside to get bound to ferritin, I just don't see it. Okay. I'm not capable right now of seeing that. Okay. I'll answer a few more questions here, but we've already been going for a couple hours and I know that you got stuff going on, but I also know that you have questions and you want them answered. But we're going to be back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central if you want to join me and we'll just go through more questions. Okay. You're very welcome, Vincent. Um, Susan says, what is the best way to repopulate the gut beneficial bacteria? What are the beneficial bacteria? Are the beneficial bacteria the ones that eat whatever you're feeding it? Susan, I mean, this is really a case. that you do need to do an elimination diet of it. I don't know what your thought process, but meats, if I was having problems after a colonoscopy, honestly, I would do an elimination diet. If I was getting ready for a colonoscopy, I would keep my diet very bland, very bland. Eggs, maybe some cottage cheese, but I doubt it because that's inflammatory. But my beneficial bacteria are the ones that eat whatever I'm going to feed it. If I start getting symptoms like belching, bloating, cramping, gurgling, those beneficial bacteria, they're fermenting crap food. I'm not gonna I'm gonna change that. I'm not gonna let those bacteria rent free and or live rent free in my colon. They're out. I don't want those symptoms. I had those symptoms. When I stopped eating those things, plants, my gut improved so much. I have no problems. No bloating, no looking like you're 20 weeks pregnant, none of that. Yeah, thanks, Vincent. I appreciate that reminder. Oh, Lucy says my last EGFR cystatin C was 117. Excellent. That's awesome. Cystatin C of 117. It's over 90. It's over 100. That's awesome. You're very welcome, Vincent. It's not really a sacrifice. I really enjoy doing these 2 hour or whatever. I love doing live streams. I love answering your questions. What I don't love is when I get stuck and I don't know the answer. But that goes with the territory. I'm not gonna know everything, but I definitely don't wanna make stuff up, and I definitely want you guys to look it up. No, I don't like to be wrong, but I also don't like to be wrong, so help me out, okay? Help out the doctor. Carolyn says, "Does insulin" we'll call it quits after this one. Carolyn says, "Does, insulin resistance cause menstrual issues and PCOS?" If you have insulin resistance, so you have chronically elevated blood sugars requiring chronically elevated insulin levels, okay? You have that. And what insulin does to the ovary is to block the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. Insulin blocks normal ovary function, and normal ovary functioning optimally will convert testosterone to estrogen. All estrogens come from testosterone. They must come from testosterone. If you have insulin resistance, you block aromatase. You are blocking the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. So estrogen will be low and testosterone will be high. Your ovaries will start pumping out cysts to try to capture estrogen that is not there. It knows there's no estrogen. So it starts making cysts to increase estrogen, but you can't get estrogen if there's no conversion. So you have, basically building up of testosterone in your body with low estrogen. So you get infertility. So you get hair growth. So you build up male pattern stuff, okay? And you develop upper body fat, okay? You get you're basically diabetic. You are an insulin resistant, and that's just one PCOS. ED in a man is basically the same thing as PCOS in a female. Okay. ED is insulin resistance. PCOS is insulin resistance. Okay. All right. We will we'll call it quits today, and we'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Central. It's Sunday live stream. Bring your questions. I'll try to, maybe Lucy can help me come up with a topic from today's lecture or today's all the questions that came up, and see if there's something that we can come up and talk 15 minutes and maybe spur your thinking, and then you start asking questions, which I really like. Okay. So you guys have a blessed Saturday, and Lord willing, I'll be back tomorrow, and you're very welcome. On can I call you 111? That it's so much easier. 111, you're welcome. All right, you guys, have a blessed day. See ya. I got to get rid of trying to end the YouTube. There we go. See ya.